we're excited to have our next guest on. And outside of acting, he has a whole world of music and is bringing that here to the Philadelphia area. It was just announced he's going to be playing Ardmore Music Hall on March 12th.
It's a great venue.
Tickets will go on sale tomorrow for the show, so please welcome Kiefer, William Frederick, Dempsey, George, Rufus, Sutherland to our show this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
That's what the Wikipedia page calls you, Kiefer, but I had no idea you had so many middle names.
Yeah, I think my father was in a lot of debt when I was born, and I think he just kept telling people that I'll name my son after you if you forgive the bill.
Wow. Well, that's a way to approach it.
Plan. Kiefer, so question about the show at Ardmore Music Hall. Is this full band? Is this you and a guitar, acoustic? What kind of show is it going to be?
It's going to be acoustic. So part of the show is just going to be me, and then I have two fantastic special guests: Mark Copley, who's an extraordinary guitar player, and Rocco DeLuca, who's going to be playing pedal steel and lap steel.
Ooh, it's a cool sound.
So I beg your pardon?
That's a cool sound. The pedal steel.
Yeah, it is, and he's a phenomenal player as well, and. But what I really enjoy about the show is it's so intimate, and we get to kind of tell some stories about why I think these songs are worth you listening to in the first place, and have a drink and play some songs, and it's just a really nice night to kind of come together, especially after the last 2 years. Yeah. So really, really looking forward to it.
As a performer, as a guy who I'm sure, since you're musically inclined, has probably played with bands and so on. You and a guitar, that's pretty naked up on stage. Did it take a little while to get to that point and feel comfortable doing shows like that?
I'm still not comfortable. I mean, I think one of the funny things, as an actor, if you get a little nervous, and I do, I use that nervous energy. You put your hands in your pocket if they start to shake a little. Doesn't work as well for a guitar player.
Yeah.
And look, if it does, I've always believed very strongly, if it doesn't make you a little nervous, you should probably doing something else.
Okay.
And so. Yeah, for me now, it just kind of goes away after the first or second chord. But certainly waiting in the wings to go on stage, either as an actor or as a player. It gets my adrenaline going. And,
cool.
And I hope it will feel like that till the day I die.
Well, the album is called Bloor Street, and it's your third. And it's funny. I know that when you have somebody who's known for what you're known for, and you take the foray into music, of course you're obviously going to be met with the initial, okay, what's this guy doing? And the truth of the matter is, as I was listening to a lot of the music, it's very good, and it's and also reading about your approach to it and your love of it and how visceral it is to you. You love your acting world as well, and in fact, during the lockdown and pandemic, most of the hardcore stuff, you were still busy. I think you did 2 movies and a limited series. And the question I have for you is, prior to that all happening, you wrote a couple of songs, and then you wrote the bulk of it during the pandemic. Would we be able to discern the songs that were written prior? Do you think?
That's a great question. I think you would. I had such a profound kind of reaction to the lockdown. I've been moving at a mile a minute for the last 20 years. I don't think I've been home for more than 3 weeks for the last 10 years. And so all of a sudden, I'm actually sitting in my house, and it's like, oh, wow, I actually like my house. And, oh, cool, I actually like my dog. And I like my girlfriend. And, wow, this is pretty cool. And so I became profoundly grateful. I've been fortunate enough to have a career that people can only really dream of. I've been allowed to do things that I'm interested in, and I know that's not what everybody gets. So a lot of the songs, whether it was songs like So Full of Love, if you had told me 4 years ago that I was going to write that song and write a song that was so positive, I'd have stabbed you in the heart with a pencil. I just wouldn't have believed you.
It would be hard. It's hard to wrap your mind around it. Yeah.
And there I am sitting in the shower going, so full of love, I can't hold it down. I'm like, who the is this guy? So that was kind of my reaction to the pandemic. And I don't want to minimize how difficult a time this has been for so many people. But I couldn't help but be really grateful for my family and my friends who I wasn't allowed to see like everybody else. And it afforded me time to take stock in my own life and how lucky I have been.
Well, I wanted to ask about the title track, Bloor Street, because I don't know at what point that song was written, but, it seems to be a nostalgic look back at a hometown. I get this kind of, Bruce Springsteen, My Hometown, lyrically, Main Street from Bob Seger, something.
Bob Seger, one of my favorite songs. Yeah.
And I've always loved that type of song. It could be talking about an existence, a place that I have no connection with growing up, but I still get an emotional connection to it. Is this indeed about Toronto, your hometown? Or?
It is. Bloor Street is the main thoroughfare through Toronto, going east and west. And we were shooting a television show there called Designated Survivor, and I hadn't been home. We were there for 3 years, and I hadn't been home for that long a period of time since I was maybe 16 years old. And I came upon this kind of main intersection in Toronto, Bloor Street and Yonge Street, and I realized all of my firsts had happened there. My first job at the food court in the Hudson Bay Center, my first meaningful kiss with a girl in front of the Bloor Street subway.
Wow.
I think the first fight I ever got in and lost was on that corner. So I just got very nostalgic and just started writing really about how grateful I was that I could grow up in that town, which afforded us a kind of freedom that I certainly know that my kids and my grandkids did not experience. We were on the subway at 11 years old. I mean, who would do that now?
Right, right. You're saying so much that's true, because that is, I actually am, it's been a while since I've been back to the town I was raised in. It's been 20 plus years. And I think I'm at that point where I want to go back, because it does mean something. And, those you pick those benchmark moments in your life, and that does mean something. And you need to reconnect. I agree with what Preston was saying about songs that do that. So much of what you write about with this album has a resonance to your experience. Two Stepping in Time is kind of just a real love song, and I assume it's written for your girlfriend, correct?
It is. Yeah. It is. And a friend of mine who I was recording with and I was writing a lot of songs. I was being kind of prolific at this moment. And he said, you should really write a waltz. And I started on the guitar, literally sitting around the kitchen island. And I was going through a kind of thing as a writer where I wanted to write about what was in front of me. And I think the very first line of the song is cigarettes in the ashtrays, all in a line, empty glasses of whiskey show the passage of time. And those were the items that were, in fact, right in front of me. I have since quit smoking, the one thing that I can thank the pandemic for. Wow. But yeah, so it's, so the guy was sitting to my right and my girlfriend was sitting a little farther down the kitchen island. I figured I should start writing towards her instead of him if I wanted to have a good evening.
Did you?
And
did you
and
write
I
it?
just
I'm sorry. Did you write that song quickly? I was reading.
Yes,
like 20 minutes, I think. Right.
Every once in a while, songs kind of write themselves, and this one was certainly that. It was finished because we were actually having a nice evening. And my friend had kind of put this task in front of me, and I wanted to go back to having our nice evening. So the song got written very quickly. But it's a love song. Again, not something that I spend a lot of time kind of doing. I don't write a lot of love songs. So when something like that happens, that's a great kind of song to put in your pocket and take with you.
It was interesting to read that you consider the touring, and you haven't had a chance to do a lot of touring over, obviously, the past couple of years. But I think you run contrary to a lot of people who create music and say that the process of touring is sort of a detriment to creating songs. And you, on the other hand, find it very helpful, and it informs your songwriting. Would that be correct to say that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. In the 3 years that we were doing Designated Survivor, we played over 500 shows. Wow. I remember on the second record writing songs that were specifically designed to enhance our set list. The live thing is something that I just caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I have. And I think that there's an amazing moment, or possibility at least, when you explain why you wrote a song. And I wrote a song called Saskatchewan about the passing of my mother. And there were times when I would play that song and I could see someone put their arm around a friend in the audience. And I could realize at that moment that that person's going through something similar.
Wow.
When we can come together and realize that we've got these things in common and that we're going through this thing together, that's a great night. I mean, that's a good evening. And so it's something that's made a deep impression on me, and hopefully for the people that we get to play for.
Kiefer, I want to ask you about your voice work over the years, because you've done some narration, you've done animated movies. I loved you in Monsters vs. Aliens. The warmonger character was terrific. You've done, The Simpsons, and narrated a few other things over the years. Does that lend itself to your ability to sing, perform on stage? Do you get training from doing narration or voice work that you can then bring to your music career, or are they entirely separate?
They are pretty separate. The voiceover work started actually for me in a very funny way. My dad was doing commercials back in the early 90s for Volvo. And I think one evening he whispered in my ear what they were paying him. I think the next day I called up Volvo and told them I did a really good Donald Sutherland. I'd do it for half the money.
Undercutting your dad.
Which I don't think he really appreciated. I thought it was a lot funnier than he did. But it's its own thing. I mean, when I think of someone like Mel Blanc, who did all of those cartoon voices, and which, Monsters versus Aliens, I hope I don't get sued for this, but I completely ripped off Yosemite Sam. Bring on the fearless freak. I hate rabbits. But it's an awful lot of fun, and it takes you back to being a kid and just loving cartoons and listening to cartoons, and so it is a lot of fun to do. But they're very, very separate kind of entities.
You have lived a very, very interesting and full life, and obviously voiceover actor, musician, but you're kind of a cowboy, too. You've competed in rodeos and have won roping championships. What's that? And do you still do that?
I do not. I think 24 kind of put an end to that. I'd been doing it for a decade, and I had two partners that I would rodeo with, one guy named John English, just an amazing all-around cowboy, and a guy named Mike Wolf, who has since passed. Really loved it. I mean, it was kind of like being in a band. You and about three other cowboys kind of load your horses up onto a trailer and go from town to town, doing rodeo after rodeo. We had more fun than we probably should have. And it was a great experience. And it was so nice to do something kind of different. I did that for about a decade, and I did films at that time. But it was a great kind of refresher, because when I went and started 24, that was going to be a whole very intense decade of just doing that show. So the rodeo actually kind of helped cleanse my palate, if you will, for a lot of work. And I enjoyed it immensely. And I got to see parts of America that I don't think I would normally have seen.
Right. I wanted to go back to the songwriting and having songs kind of just present themselves to you. And, two-stepping in time and having it be so quick and present itself and you write it. Did you get a chance to see the Peter Jackson Beatles documentary?
I sure did.
I mean, for you, that had to be, as it was for us, to see the creation of songs that have become so iconic. What a mind blower.
Yeah, to have Ringo Starr kind of doing an interview saying, I could just listen to Paul play piano for an hour. and in the background, Paul's working out the opening chords for Let It Be. I mean, are you kidding me?
One of the greatest songs ever written coming to life right there. It's insane.
But what's really, really funny is kind of, as iconic as they are, there's always going to be something really personal that you watch in a movie like that, and especially one that's documented 6 hours. My phone rang off the hook somewhere in the third episode when they all started drinking J&B Scotch. Now, J&B Scotch is certainly now not considered to be very highbrow on any level, and you'd have to find a pretty dirty bar to find a bottle of it anyway. Yeah. I've been that was always kind of my drink of choice for a number of years, and literally the fact that they had all drank it together, kind of sitting on the floor working out, the long and winding road, somehow gave the beverage validity. My friends finally, after 20 years of drinking the swill, have forgiven me.
It's good enough for the Beatles.
I love it. Yeah, I thought, if John Lennon could drink it, and apparently I make the same kind of disgusted face that John Lennon makes when he takes that first pull.
That's great.
We laughed about that.
If you're just tuning in, it's Kiefer Sutherland that we're speaking to. His album is called Bloor Street, and he's going to be performing at Ardmore Music Hall coming up on March 12th. Tickets go on sale, I believe, tomorrow, by the way. And I didn't even realize this is a bizarre coincidence, Kiefer. I right before you came on, I go to Casey. I go, oh, my God. I'm wearing my Castle Rock Maine shirt.
There you are,
yeah. And you were Ace Merrill in Stand By Me, who lived in Castle Rock.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
It's Casey's favorite movie of all time. And I wanted to ask you about that character and other characters in your acting career, because that one was earlier on in your career, and he was so nasty and so mean. That as you've gone through and formed other characters, if you've ever gone, I think I'll throw a little Ace in there, or do you do that? Do you mix and match and borrow pieces from characters and maybe put them to construct others together?
No, they kind of, each character is inspired and informed by the script that you have in front of you and the experiences that you've had as a human being up until that point. The thing that I've always been amazed about with films like Stand By Me, that I've been so lucky to be a part of, was the seemingly unaware I was that it was great, when I look back, I think, man, you have been lucky, because, when I first read that script, it was just a job. I didn't think it was going to turn into this amazing thing that Rob Reiner and the other kids turned it into. So I've been very fortunate to be along for the ride on some of these things. And I also remember it's the first and only time that I went on an audition where I was hired in the room. And that was Rob Reiner. And that was like the most incredible feeling, to go in for a meeting. And then by the time you're going back to your car in the parking lot, you've actually got the job.
Yeah. No callbacks, no we'll get in touch, none of that.
I think it almost made me cry when I was a kid. I mean, it was just because it was such an important thing to get the first couple jobs down here in the States. And I'll always be grateful for Rob for doing that.
Wow. And that movie has hit me in different ways over the years, because I first watched it as a child, and there were things about the movie that I didn't get or understand because I was a kid at the time. And you seeing these four kids going on this amazing journey, and then all of a sudden at the end, like, they're not friends anymore. Like they went to middle school, and then as an adult.
Yeah.
And I actually have a friend of mine. I was just talking to him about it on Sunday. I went to kindergarten with this guy, and we're still friends to this day, but we were lamenting over the fact that, like, there were people on our last day of 8th grade. That was the last time I ever saw them. And, these are aspects of these child's lives that Stephen King was well aware of as an adult. And so it's my favorite movie, and it has always been, will always be my favorite movie of all time.
Well, it's certainly one of my favorite to have made, because I was so young again. But all of a sudden, I'm in Eugene, Oregon. I've got my own hotel room. I'm being paid. I'm 17 years old. This has nothing to do with my parents. For all of those reasons, again, talking about the firsts that you do in your life. It was an incredibly, incredibly exciting time.
As you moved through your career. And I mean, it's an amazing career, on the screen, because you've played William Burroughs and Jack Bauer, which are, as author of The Naked Lunch and one of the great action guys of all time. And I know you have a very good work ethic, and the mindset early on was to just get the role. But as you were able to have some impact and weight and make the selections, what informed what you chose throughout your career?
Just whatever moves you. It's not more complicated than someone picking up a book and for whatever reason this book moves them and makes them inspires them more than the other book. So generally, if I'm reading a script and I can't put it down, it's going to be something I'm interested in doing. You know, and having said that, I've made close to 100 films, so I've made mistakes. There are a couple films I'm sure that I read that I didn't understand. And when I see the movie, I'm like, how did you not get that?
Is that a liability? And you mentioned, you didn't realize what you had with Stand By Me. Mm-hmm. I would think it'd be hard for an actor who's doing the job to be in it, surrounded by all of this stuff that's going on, and to be very aware, completely aware of how something is turning out. Is that?
Yes, I mean, that's a very fair statement. I mean, and there's some people that are clearly must be better at it. Like, I think Tom Hanks must have some inner gene that's like, this is going to be a huge hit because he keeps making them. I wasn't given that gene, and having said that, so many things need to go right for a film or a play to work, or for a song or an album to work. And for instance, 24 was a perfect example. It was my first foray into television. And for those out there that don't know, you make a pilot, you make the first episode, and then if it gets picked up, you then go make the first season. But if it doesn't, you still get paid.
Right.
And when, I thought the likelihood of 24 getting picked up was pretty minimal. So I thought, I'll go do the pilot. It won't get picked up. I'll still get paid. No one will know. And, it was the luckiest gift I've ever had as an actor, and did it for a decade. So, wow. So I don't know if any of your kids want to get into film, probably the best bet is to not send me the script and ask me what I think.
Two real quick things, Kiefer. My mom drinks J&B, so you're not alone. You, my mom, and the Beatles. And you do play a great dick, because in A Few Good Men, you were really not likable at all. And you pulled it off successfully. I think you're a really likable person. I'm loving this conversation with you. But that movie, was it fun to be kind of a villain in that movie?
Well, it's those characters, and especially by design, like Ace Merrill and Lieutenant Kendrick in A Few Good Men, they're just designed to be that. There's no real depth to them. There's kind of a black and white character that this is who you're against.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they are so pointed as characters makes them very fun, because all your energy goes into that. There's no complex layering. He's just, as you said on your radio station, he's a dick. So lean into it.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So that's fun.
Yeah. It's got to be. All right, well, listen, Kiefer, we know you got to run. This has been so much fun to talk to you. We really appreciate it, and excited about the fact that you're coming into Philadelphia. Kiefer's show is going to be at the Ardmore Music Hall. It's on March 12th. Tickets go on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. at ardmoremusic.com. The album is called Bloor Street. Some great music. It's got a country vibe to it. If that's your thing, then you're definitely on board.
Yeah, it's very, very solid.
Yeah, so thanks so much, man.
Man, thank you guys so much. And Steve, I believe it's your happy birthday. So
no, it's Preston. It's Preston, but thank you.
Oh, is it Preston's birthday today?
Yep. Yeah.
But I get
one.
Oh,
man, I'm so sorry, but happy birthday.
Oh, dude, come on. Thank you. I appreciate it, Kiefer. Good luck with everything.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay. Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Wow. And there's so much more that we could have covered. Even we could have gone another hour.
Yeah,
just talking to him about all his movies, TV shows.
It's still an interesting thing though, because you have a guy who's of the vast movie career, but he is passionate about the music, and he really is sinking a lot into it. And if you do give it a listen, I mean, you did mention a little bit of Springsteen-esque. There's even a bit, I think, of Warren Zevon, and there's and it's personal, and he does a good job relaying that through the music.
I meant to and wanted to ask him about. He performed at the company's Christmas party. We weren't at that, but it was for national sales. And
no, you didn't want to bring.
Yeah, were you in here when we were talking?
Well, no. So I wanted to ask about Matt. So Matt Cowper was the
organizer.
He was the master of ceremosures, and he wore a bright red fitted.
I saw you in Stand By Me. That was sick. Was that dead body real?
Played eighth.
You played eighth. That was sick.
Oh my God!
Are there really a few good men, or is there just one good man? Sick. Were the boys really lost?
Wait, he was wearing a red outfit,
a red blazer, like almost like a Santa Claus, but it was fitted perfectly to. Or imperfectly to his body.
I had a tailor made. So it can show my V. Sick.
Your feet.
Casey, I was glad you got to bring up Stand By Me, because I think now you've been able to ask Rob Reiner, Will Wheaton, Jerry O'Connell.
Yep.
Now Kiefer,
probably Corey Feldman at some point, because we've had him on. We had him in studio back in.
But you could have asked River Phoenix if he was still alive.
By the way,
covered everybody
on. I think it's Hulu. Hulu has a series. It's a Vice series, and they touch on there's a whole episode on River Phoenix, the Viper Room.
Heard about, I heard it's really good.
It's really, really good.
I'll tell you the thing about Stand By Me, and there are other movies like that you watch it and you dread almost the end of Stand By Me, because, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's the way life works, but the sadness of what you had and
the Sandlot, things like that.
It's the way things are.
Yeah, and it's what's important to you as a kid at that time. I mean, it means
everything.
They're sitting around the fire, and he goes, "We talked about things that are important to kids at that time. What's your favorite flavor Pez? Or
Pez,
candy
flavor Pez.
and stuff like that." And it's just a simpler time that's great to reminisce about, and that's done so lovingly well. In that movie, so it's cool. I'm glad he had noticed. I said, "Yeah, I'm wearing my Castle Rock shirt." He's like, "Yeah, I noticed." Very cool, man.
Yeah,
awesome.
Great guy, great guest. I'd love to get him on again.